Hi, I am Harish Gurjeti and welcome back to my channel AWS for Small Businesses. Today's topic is a continuation of AWS organizations that we just started in the last session. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to configure your AWS organizations, basic settings, not like really creating the policies and stuff that will follow, that will come in the following videos. But today is really about the core settings or core configuration that you need to do to get going with AWS organizations. For those who don't know me, I'm Harish Goteti, and I'm an AWS consultant. I help SMBs build and scale their businesses on AWS cost effectively. So that's my passion, and I believe that sharing my knowledge about AWS will definitely help businesses to figure out whether AWS is a good solution for them, or whether they need to move to the cloud or not. I just want to make the decision process easier with my videos. So let's dive into today's topic. This is AWS organization screen, as you see. So we are going to talk about the sections on the left here, which is services, the policies, settings. Those are three things, right? So let's talk about services. So there is something called trusted services concept within AWS organizations. So AWS organization integrates with several other AWS services, and there is a way to enable trust between these two services through AWS organizations. So that's what we can do over here. So what it basically is you can go ahead and configure these services on behalf of your AWS organizations when you enable these trusted access. So what happens when you enable this trusted access? So in the back end, there is something called a service linked role that gets created, and then does the actions on your behalf. So that's what it basically does, and you don't need to know the details on how it gets attached to the service and stuff, but that's what happens when you enable access to any of these services. For example, if you want AWS Control Tower to work with AWS organizations, you enable the trusted access, and it will access AWS Control Tower will be able to access all the information of your AWS organizations, right? So and then work on your behalf. So this is what this section is about. So one caveat here is to know that there is a small note here which most people ignore, but you need to understand that here they say we recommend that you do not enable trusted access with an AWS service here. So why is that? And instead use the other services console, right? And you will see that it is evident when you enable it, it will do the same. It will ask you to go to that services console. The reason being there are additional steps. So when you, for example, let's take an example of Control Tower. So when you go ahead and enable trusted access, there are additional steps that you need to follow in Control Tower to be able to for the Control Tower to work with AWS organizations. And if you go ahead and enable it here, you may miss out on those steps. So that's the reason they recommend doing it through the Control Tower console and not really from this section. So let me show you how that works. So if you go ahead and say enable trusted access for AWS Control Tower, as you see here it says go to recommended thing is go to AWS Control Tower console, and here show the option to enable. If you even if you turn it on, it says not recommended, right? So the ideal way to do enable this trusted access, go to that AWS each of these services, then integrate with AWS organizations, and when we go to Control Tower, setup Control Tower, I'll tell you how to integrate with AWS organizations. And then once you follow those steps, then you can go ahead and enable it here, because all the steps over there are done. Once you do it there, you don't even need to enable it here. It's fine. I mean, you can access the service organizations from there directly. So that's about the services section. So I hope you are clear. So even though, so you may ask, like, why is it here then, right? So let's say you have everything is enabled, you have set up the control tower, and now you want to now you want AWS organizations to, do stuff on behalf, without you going to AWS console, control tower console every time. Then you can enable this and, go forward with it. But yeah, that's what it is about. Now let's talk about policies. So what are these policies? So AWS organization, so you have an organization, you have 5 or 7 or 8 or 10 accounts, and you want to manage them, and the way to manage them is through policies. For example, you want a service, you don't want more than 10 instances to be launched in AWS EC2, right? That's a service control policy you can set up. So those policies, in order for you to use them, you need to first enable them, and this is how you enable. So AI services opt-out policy, you can ignore it. I mean, unless you are working on AI specific services. The key things are these three: backup policies, service control policies, and tag policies. So if you go to backup policies, let's just enable it, so that you can create a centralized backup policies for your entire organization, not just each account. So that's one. And then the next one is service control policies, like what permissions, permissions available within accounts to be able to use certain services. We'll talk about these policies in detail when we get to that section. So I enabled that as well. Then tag policies, how do you do tagging? It really helps you on managing costs, identifying costs, and all the other things. There is a complete tagging structure section that we'll cover later, but tag policies, let's enable it. So yeah, so these policies are enabled when you, so that's about this section. Then you go to settings. There's nothing much you do here, except delegation. So if you want to have a delegated administrator, you can set up a delegation policy to one of the accounts, or one of the whatever. So what kind of delegation you want to do, right? So you create a policy, hey, delete. For example, you can say account, these are all access level settings. So once you set up um, these actions, you can say, hey, these actions can be done by that person. The principal is where you specify who can do it, so that it can be a account, it can be a person, it can be a member, right? So you can set up delegation policies, but that's too advanced. We don't need to do that. Your administrator of AWS account can manage the AWS organizations at this time. So typically in an enterprise setting, in a big organization, the AWS people will do all these stuff, and they delegate certain things for certain teams, or the member teams, or member account people in the member accounts, right? So that's how the reason this exists. But for a small business, one, the administrator can go ahead and do it for you. So that's about it. That's about today's video on how to do the basic configuration of your AWS organizations. I hope this video is useful for you to understand more about AWS organizations. So I'm going to share a lot of other videos. So do subscribe to this channel, because there's a lot of things you'll learn about AWS on this channel. Not really about the technical stuff. It's really about how AWS can help your business, right? So we are all about running a business, and how to AWS can effectively do it for you is what I plan to share. Thanks for watching, and talk to you soon.